Hey guys, welcome to Code Decode. In this video, we are going to look into top team lead level Java 8 Stream API interview questions. These are usually in 225 editions being asked in technical level architect interview questions also. So let's get started with some very complicated stuff around the Stream APIs, the Stream pipelines, the laziness, the fusion steps and the short circuiting steps. So let's get started and see all about these very technical stuff. So the first thing is, what is a stream pipeline? A stream pipeline and what are its parts? The stream pipeline consists of three main parts. First is the source. Basically, if you can see this code where you have the list of strings as the name of the employees and you are trying to stream over it, filter that the length of string should be greater than 2. Where the first element fails, only 3 element qualifies, the Bob, Alice and Ben, and then it is going to map it to upper stream, so your output becomes Bob, Alice and Ben as the capital letters. And when you are going to short circuit it to limit to only 2, only Bob and Alice will be coming as an output to the list that is going to be collected. Now, out of these complete whole stream pipeline, it is divided into three parts. The source, which is names, which is nothing but the list. So arrays, collections, list, all these, the place from where the elements actually start getting evaluated from becomes the source of your Java stream. So here, the list of string or called as names is the source of your stream API. The second is an intermediate operation. So everything like filter, map becomes the intermediate operations. The fourth important part, which 90% of people don't forget to explain to interviewer, are the short circuit operations. So everybody knows about intermediate and terminal operators. They are very important operator called as short circuit operators, which helps you to increase the efficiency of your stream API. This limit 2 is actually the short circuit operator, which are also the part of the terminal operations. And this collect as a list is the terminal operations. Now, this is the final step that forces the execution of pipeline. Without this terminal operation, none of this filter or map will work. So, the key idea is there are three parts of the stream APIs: the source, the intermediate operations, and the terminal operations, which can include the terminal operations as well as the short circuit operations. Why laziness is very important? Because if the stream API is not lazy, all these stuff will happen, but if you're not collecting it to as an terminal operation, then what will you do with that? That is why the laziness is very important, which is enforced by the terminal operator, which asks you, apply these operations, the filter and map operations, only and only if there is a collect operation or the terminal operation available, and hence it is lazy. That is, nothing happens until terminal operations executes. To make it more efficient, there are few short circuit operations and few merged fusions that are provided as a part of stream API. Now you'd ask me, what is fusion? So let me explain with this example. Suppose your names consists of Al, Bob, Alice and Ben. Now to filter out, the first thing that happens here is to filter all those elements whose size is greater than 2. This is not qualifying, but these three are getting qualified. Now you'd ask me, how is this processed? Is a new stream created after filter? A new stream is created after mapping it to the uppercase, like Bob to uppercase, Alice to uppercase and Ben to uppercase, and at the end you collect it to a final list? Answer is no, this is not how it works. So how it does not work, I'm going to tell you. It does not create a new list after filtering, and it does not create a new map after the map operation, the intermediate operation. Rather, it works on the element by element process, and that is called as fusion method of stream API. That is, it first takes Al and then apply filter, then apply map, then apply collect. So it says filter Al, it fails. So it's discarded then and there. And then the next element is taken up. It then tries to filter. Is it greater than 2? It says yes, it is greater than 2. Now it will be given to the map. So it is mapped to Bob. Then the same time, it checks whether limit is there as 2. Answer is no, because Al has failed and Bob is the single element as the output of the stream. So now the Alice is taken as an output. Does it filters? It says yes, the Alice size is greater than 2. Then it maps to the uppercase and becomes Alice in a capital letter. And then it checks, does it allows the 2 limit? It says now I have 2. So the stream says, oh, Now it is 2. Let's not traverse any more data in the list and let's give the terminal operation, that is to the list. And at the end, these two are output into the new list. And hence, whenever you have two elements already, the stream stops and never touches the bin and saves the unnecessary work. And that is why Stream API is very efficient, because it works with the two things, that is short circuit operations are also there and fusion is also there. That is, it is merged, each element is processed through each of this stream operation and at the end collected. It is not that after filter, the whole list will be created as a new list of 3 items. As a map, again a list will be created of these 3 as a capital letters. No, that is never the case. Your intermediate operations never create the output as the list. Rather, each element is processed step by step in the case of short circuit operations and the fusions. Hey guys, recently we have launched a course covering an end-to-end full stack application using Angular as front end and microservices and Spring Boot as the back end. Also, we have used Cloud to deploy this application, and we have used CI/CD, that is Jenkins and Argo CD, for continuous integration and continuous deployment. The technologies that we have used is RESTful web services, Spring Boot and microservices for backend, Angular for front end. GitHub we have used for version control system. Also, to make the code unit testable, we have used JUnits. We have used Sonar for code quality checks. Also, for containerization, we have used Docker and Kubernetes. And to deploy this whole application, we have used AWS and multiple services from AWS. Also, we have used SQL as well as NoSQL, that is MongoDB and SQL. On AWS, since for the SQL we have RDS, we have used those services, and Jenkins and Argo CD for CI/CD pipeline. Also, this is an architecture of the application that we have created where the front end is Angular and the back end is microservices. We have used ALB load balancers, Ingress for routing and load balancing. And we have used SQL and MongoDB for SQL and NoSQL DB management with Eureka Server and all those microservices counterparts. Now, this is the CI/CD pipeline. This is the CI/CD flowchart for the application that we have created on local. So, this is something, a flow when you create an application in local, push it to GitHub, create a Jenkins pipeline, and do the CI/CD using Jenkins and Argo CD. And at the end, deploy the whole code at AWS EKS. Complete description of this course is covered in a very separate video. The link for that video is also given in the description bar below. And also the link to purchase that course from Udemy is also in the description bar below. So please go and check the description for all these links. Now, a second very important question, very simple but very important question being asked nowadays is when to use map, when to use flat map. Now, map transforms each element to exact one element. That is as good as you have one apple, you create a juice out of it. While when there is a flat map, you have a whole box of 10 apple. You take each apple, you create the juice, put it in a whole big container, and that last big container is the complete juice of 10 apples. So it flattens all the apples, collects all the juices into a one tumbler, and that is the complete flat map of 10 apples you have in the box segregatedly. And that's the flat map. It flattens the all objects or the nested streams into a single tumbler or the single stream, and it is useful for one-to-many mapping. While this is one-to-one mapping, one apple equals to one juice. Here it was 10 apple equals to one juice and one tumbler. So that's flattening of your data. Example, in a technical terms, if you have the stream of A, B and C. So basically it is going to map and split with comma. Now, if you're using map and collecting it as to the list, then your output becomes in such a way that your input stream is this. Now you split with comma, so A, B becomes 1 and C becomes the another element of the array. Because here you are trying to convert this array to list, now it becomes the list of this. And now when you try to print it, it will be A, B and C. So this comma is never splitted because of the map, but this comma will be splitted because of the map, flat map. So what flat map does is, it takes each element, splits with comma and becomes A, B, C. So in the second part, the streams of arrays is getting split with comma. So this flat map merged the flattened inner stream into one single stream as A, B, C. And that is why map is used for transformation of one apple to one juice, while flat map is transformation of multiple many apples into one tumbler juice. Now a third and very commonly asked question nowadays with technical architects or team leads are, what is encounter order in stream API? And what does for each and for each ordered do in the stream APIs? So first, let's understand encounter order, and then only we will be able to understand for each and for each ordered. Encounter order is the natural order. That means the stream source gives the element the same order the stream tries to keep even after multiple operations. For example, this is the list of 1, 2, 3, which is the source. So the encounter order is 1, 2, 3. But when it is a new hash set with 1, 2, 3, the hash set does not maintain any order. So encounter order is unpredictable as set does not have any order. So if the source is ordered, stream tries to respect you and says, since you are the list, you have the ordered source, I will not change the order unless you told me to do that otherwise. But if your source is also unsorted, how would the stream make sure that it is in a proper order? Now, if you understand what is encounter order, it is just the natural order. It is now easy to understand for each and for each order. Now, for each runs action on each element. If it is a sequential streams, it preserves the encounter or the natural order. But if it is a parallel stream, so all this encounter order becomes a problematic thing when there is a parallel stream working on your streams. So on the parallel stream, it completely ignores your encounter order for the better performance. And hence the better, the faster and the good output, even though it is jumbled when it comes to the parallel streams. But if you don't want that, if you don't want the performance on the cost of your order or the encounter order, then you use for each ordered. So if you are using parallel stream and you want your order to be maintained, that is encounter order to be maintained, then use for each ordered, which always respects the encounter order even if it is a parallel stream. So it is slower, it has a bad performance, but at the end the result you get is an arranged order, and even though you use the parallel stream, and the output remains the one which is on your list, like that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, rather than the jumbled one which is there when you use simple for each rather than for each ordered. So what we have understood, encounter order is the original order of your source if there is any. While the for each may reorder in the parallel streams for speed, the for each orders guarantees that the order will not be manipulated or hampered even if you use the parallel stream for more efficiency. So that was all about encountered order, for each and for each ordered. Now let's go for the next part, which is non-interference and statelessness in your stream API. Now you would ask me, this is so much of technical terms, it is so high level. So I would say yes. If you are below 8 years of experience, knowing this is very good to have. But after 8 years of experience with team lead and technical architect level interviews, knowing this becomes the must have. At least in 2025, where the level of interviews have gone a very high level. So let's see what this non-interference and statelessness means and why we should avoid that. Looking at the code, you would see, oh, this code is somewhere I have seen. And yes, we have seen this when we were doing the iterator logic over the collections. There you might have seen these interference and statelessness problems. The similar issue also comes with the streams API because at the end it is iterating over your collections only. So that is why understanding this non-interference and statelessness is also important with stream API if it was important when you were understanding iterators in the collections. So let's get started and understand what is non-interference. The stream operations must not change the source while the pipeline is running. Very similar to what you have heard that iterator should not change the collections when iterator is actually iterating over the collection. And why? The reason is because streams traverse the data in a predictable way only. So if the source changes in the mid-traversal, unexpected and unpredictable results comes into picture. And that is why it becomes an anti-pattern for you. I'll give you one quick example. Again, a collection. There is a list of integers And when you stream over this list, for each operator, if you try to add 1 to that particular list, which actually modifies your source, then this cause the concurrent modification exception. Exactly, yes, what you face during iterations also. Because you're changing the list while you are streaming over it. Now, the correct way to do the same thing without any concurrent modification exception is that you first stream over it, map each element with x to x plus 1, and then collect to list and at the end print it up. Rather than printing it then and there and modifying the list then and there, you don't do that. You do all the operations first, collect it to the list, and then at the end print it up. And hence the source is completely untouched. The second important thing is statelessness. Each element should not depend upon the mutual state or on the previous element. For example, there is an integer array called as sum. Now there is a list with 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you open a parallel stream, and for each element you create the sum as 0 plus 1 and so on. But this may give a completely wrong result when you try to sum with 0. Reason being, you are using the sum of 0 as the same shared variable and will cause a race condition because you are using a parallel stream. Multiple threads will be spawned because of parallel stream. Each thread will try to access sum of 0 and try to add 1, 2, 3, 4 to it, which will result in the wrong result at the end. So how it is better to create the stateless and safe operation? What you do is you create a reduce operation. And this reduce operation takes the initial integer, that is 0. Then it calls the sum over 1, 2, 3 and 4 and then print the total. So 0 plus 1 becomes 1, 1 plus 2 becomes 3, 3 plus 3 becomes 6, 6 plus 4 becomes 10. And that is how the operation depends only on one element, that is the previous one, and not on any of the shared attribute, which is with the parallel stream in the for each operation. And why you should avoid it? Because your results depends upon the pipeline and it is not an hidden state. Parallel safety is also impacted. And in the functional style, that is, streams are designed to be functional programming. And hence, it is a too much of side effect if you write code like this or if you write the code like this, even without the parallel stream. Here, there is no parallel stream, still you will get concurrent modification exception. Hence, the summary is try to create the stream API in such a way that it is non-interferencing, it is stateless, and it avoids side effects. If you go to that level, that is architect or team lead level, and if you have the peer review options in your system, please, if you are using Java 8, think about these situations where you can get these exceptions in the production. So this is where these questions matters a lot. And yes, a lot of people will come and say to me that we have used iterate over collection. Streams are also used over the collection. So think about in a similar way on that front. The fifth very important situation is when you're using collectors.toMap to create a key value pair out of your complete source of data. There's a pitfall when there's a duplicate keys. And that is where Java 8 team people were very smart and they would know this would come. You might write a code where a situation will come that you, while creating a map, you will have a duplicate key. And we all know the map does not allow the duplicate key. The key is always a set, which is only one key for a whole map. What will you do in such situation? So what they did is they have given the toMap methods as overridden method with 2 parameters, 3 parameter and 4 parameter. So if you are very sure that you will always have the key as a unique always, then you can use the toMap with 2 parameters only, where key is the key and value is its corresponding value. If in any case, if you use this and by any chance your key becomes similar in 2 situations, then it will throw illegal state exception. Now you will ask me, how will this ever happen? So I'll give you an example. There is a book class which has 2 fields, ISBN and the title. What if this books, while adding, by mistake you add ISBN as 1 and the titles for both are different, A and second edition A. And then when you try to stream over your collection or the list, you open the stream and you collect it. In a key value pair, you want to create a key value pair of this book with the ISBN number in its title, then your ISBN becomes the key, which is 1, where the title is A. But again, when you try to get a second object, again the key becomes 1, and this is where you get illegal state exception, because now your collection does not know to give the value as A or second addition of A. So the solution to this are the overloaded method that Java people have already given you. That if you're not very sure that when you are using collectors.toMap, there can be a case that you will have a duplicate elements, then create the key value pair, but you also write a merge function to resolve the conflicts. Say, iterate over books with a stream, collect with a key value pair as key as ISB and value as a title, but also add a merge function, saying that in any case, by any chance, in any time, you find that the new data has having the key already in the map, that is 1, then keep the new value. So now when you try to print the map, the complete ISBN map, your key becomes the new value, that is 1, and the title becomes a second edition. So this is what you will get as a map. Key as 1, value as second edition. Also, they are even smarter enough. They have also given you a 4 argument overloaded method, which chooses the map type also. So you add whether the map has to be the hash map, the linked hash map, or the tree map also. And to use it, you can add it in this way. You can call this linked hash map new. And this is how these smart people have given you not just one overloaded method, 2 and 3. That is with 2 arguments, with 3 arguments, and with the 4 arguments. 2 argument when you are very sure no key will be duplicated. 3 argument if there is a duplicate key. And 4 arguments when you want to tell that what kind of hash map you need. What kind of map you need as an output. Linked hash map, tree map, what. So default to 2 map, but it fails on duplicate keys. Default to 3 map, it merges and resolves the conflict but does not tell you what kind of map to be outputted to. If you want to choose between the map, have the merge function, and do not want to have failures on the duplicate keys, always use a 4 argument 2 map of the collections. I have many more questions to cover. For example, the reduce of 2 and 3 arguments, the downstream of collecting, grouping, and mapping of them. A lot of thing has to be covered for the technical team lead level or the architect level questions. So if you want to know more about it, just let me know in the comment section. I'll create the second part of this video. Thank you.